Frank, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Please stand for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all requested and paid for same, and published in Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Councilman Franklin. Here. Councilman Day.
Councilman Begg?
Here.
Councilman Milano.
Here.
Councilman Giacomo.
Here.
Councilwoman Howard.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragnow and our Borough Administrator Kevin Moore.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have no presentation, so I'd like to open the meeting for public comments. Can I have a motion, please? So moved. Council President Riker, second by Councilman DeLine. All in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address?
My name is Gregory Cockefer, 26 Albert Street, Pompton, New Jersey. My family has been in this town for a very long time. And I'm doing research on my mother's side of the family and the DuPonts, okay? I'm finding out some very interesting information, but I only had 5 minutes here, and it's a whole litany of stuff. All that I know is that, first and foremost, it's we the people of this country have the right and the responsibility to choose our path. And the Declaration of Independence even says, the pursuit of happiness is guaranteed, but not happiness itself. So, with that light and said, I will be talking to each and every one of you individually about what I believe this town should do. Not only for this town, but specifically for Wanacue and Haskell. Because I'm finding out some very interesting information about Haskell and Wanacue and a bunch of other things that tie into what I gave you about 3 years ago with those pieces of paper. Do you still have them, any of you?
I might have them somewhere.
Okay, if you do, can I borrow it for a while?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have to say tonight. But it is we the people, and I feel that I'm one of we.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Bennett, Councilman DeLine. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes, regular meeting minutes of January 23rd, 2019. Can I have a motion? Council President Riker, Councilman DeLine. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Present?
Present? We have a present. Were you not here?
I was not.
Then you're present.
I am present.
Bills and claims list. Motion to approve the following bills is listed below.
So moved.
Councilman Day,
Second.
Councilman Bennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Present.
Present. We have another present.
Councilman Milano.
Yeah, DeLine, yes. Consent agenda whenever you're ready.
Does anyone wish to have any minutes for separate action?
Nope.
Whereas the mayor and council of Borough Pompton has approved the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved: Resolution 1962 through 1973.
Okay.
Before you vote on it, I do want to point out that the one resolution on towers and towing fees, that's the most recent state, I don't want to call it mandated, but state regulations regarding the amount. So it does change how towers and towing fees are utilized here in the borough.
But we have to follow that, or we don't.
Well, you can make them less, but most municipalities use whatever the state recommends.
Okay. Yes, can I have a vote, a motion to approve?
You have a motion. Second.
Second. Councilman Giaconetti, roll call, please.
This is all.
Oh, a consent agenda, I'm sorry. Okay, we got a second, okay.
What's a voice, I think you wait for a voice vote, right?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against, okay, I'm sorry. We have, no resolutions for separate action, introduction of ordinances, first reading.
This ordinance will be presented for second reading and final adoption on February 27th. Ordinance 19-08, or ordinance amending parts of section 5-23 towers and towing.
Motion to approve ordinance number 19-08 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Day? Second. Council President Riker? Discussion is just what we just said, or?
Well, and actually, this changes a couple minor areas of the ordinance, not the resolution, of the ordinance to bring it into compliance with where you're going with the resolution.
Any discussion?
No, you don't have discussion about it.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti?
Yes.
Ordinance 19-09, an ordinance amending provisions of Chapter 190 relating to the Hamburg redevelopment area, 9 Hamburg Turnpike, Block 2800, Lot 11.
Motion to approve ordinance number 19-09 for introduction.
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Day?
The purpose of this ordinance is to provide for the zoning regulations that go along with the new redevelopment area called the Hamburg redevelopment area. And it will be included in Chapter 190, much like the DRA was and the DRA2 was at one time for your current redevelopment area. This creates the actual zoning regulations.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti?
Yes.
Ordinance 19-10, an ordinance amending section 5-22, 5-2012, solicitors and canvassers.
Motion to approve ordinance number 19-10 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilman Klein?
Fine.
Second. Councilman Giaconetti?
The purpose of this ordinance is to revise, primarily to revise the application process for solicitors and canvassers because of the fact that we're not permitted to do fingerprinting by order of the Supreme Court of the United States, which was still in our ordinance. So this changes a number of the application requirements because we can't do the fingerprinting.
Okay, have a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti?
Yes.
Second readings?
Second reading, these ordinances have been advertised and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Ordinance 19-07, an ordinance amending section 8-2 of chapter 8 noise of the Borough Administrative Code.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1907 for introduction.
Now, this is a second reading.
Oh, second reading, yes, second reading.
Well, first you want to open it to the public.
Yeah. Motion to open the meeting for public comments on justice ordinance 19-07.
So moved.
Second. Councilman Giaconetti, Councilman Brennan. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session for ordinance number 1907?
So moved.
Councilwoman Polidori, Council President Riker. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 1907 for final adoption. So moved. Councilman Brennan?
Second.
Councilman Giaconetti? Roll call, please. Oh, we'll do a discussion, sure, we had it first now. So this is, go ahead.
Well, unless any,
Does anybody have any discussion they want? This is what we followed up on the noise ordinance. We're going to follow the state regulations, and the county would be doing the inspection.
this establishes an actual noise ordinance, which the borough has really not had up until now, based upon the Wayne model, since Wayne is our health department, and they will be involved in the regulation of it as well as the county.
Okay. Have a Everyone good? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Radcliffe?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Deline?
Yes.
Councilman Jaconet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under my report, I'll start with the motion I have. Motion to appoint John Keating as a Class 2 member of the Planning Board to fill in an unexpired term through December 31st, 2019. Have a motion.
So moved.
Councilman Begg, have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan, all in favor?
Aye.
Against. Okay, under my report, I'd like to first start off with to thank everybody who helped get the video up on Channel 77. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a historical video up running of our town back in the 50s. It's about 30 minutes long. It's very interesting. It shows our whole downtown. It shows parades that were going on. People who grew up here and were from town probably recognize some relatives in it. It's just a fascinating thing to watch, to see where the town was 50 years ago, and to recognize it pretty much looks the same when you look at it now and compare it. So I tell everybody who don't know it's on Channel 77. Check the schedule. It's very interesting, and I want to thank everybody here in the Borough Hall and the people that brought it to us to get it up. It's great to see. I was invited to a meeting with our new Congresswoman, Mikey Sherrill, to discuss flooding. She invited about 8 mayors. It was a long discussion about where the federal government could help with flooding. Fortunately or unfortunately, Pompton Lakes has a lot of knowledge about flooding, and so does Wayne. So we did a lot of the talking about the meeting. There were a lot of mayors there who knew the whole process of flooding, and they were very interested in what we had to say. You know, I will say this, most of the mayors there recognize Pompton Lakes as one of the areas that people are following when it comes to flooding. You know, how we're cleaning up our rivers, how we're applying for these permits for the DEP, which are very difficult to get. Most of the towns are not doing that yet, but they all felt that that was very important to do, and they're going to start the process of trying to get the permits. Wayne, for example, I spoke with their mayor. I got an email from them today. They're they're voting on it tonight to put money aside to start the process of getting the permits from the DEP to clean up their rivers. My philosophy at that meeting was a very simple one. If every town cleans their rivers from here to the bay, the water will flow down to the bay. As soon as one town decides they don't want to clean their rivers, the backup starts. And unfortunately, this last year, Pompton Lakes has been pretty good, but other towns have been seeing some severe flooding, and they're wondering why. So that brought us to the reason why we met with the Congresswoman. She wanted to know how she could help with the Army Corps of Engineers who designed the gate. You know, we had nothing to do with that. The Army Corps of Engineers had designed that. So a couple of the mayors wanted to talk about how that was designed, why it was designed, how it functions. The other thing that we spoke about, which I think could help us here in Pompton Lakes, is about 5 years ago, we had a meeting with a bunch of mayors and the Army Corps of Engineers, and a lot of the mayors threw out certain ideas that they thought would work. One of them from Pompton Lakes was building up berms along the side of our rivers that would be nature walkways or hikes during the dry seasons, and kind of keep the water funneled in a little better into the streams as it flows. Right now, you're not allowed to do that because of the federal laws. So the Army Corps of Engineers was supposed to get back to us on all that information, and they never did. So she's going to follow up with that. So, you know, I'm glad to see we have a new Congresswoman here. I'm glad to see her trying to take charge and get involved with the flooding issues we here have in Pompton. You know, unfortunately or fortunately, we're surrounded by 3 rivers, and we have the dam in our town. So, you know, most of the towns have one river flowing through the town, and a couple houses affected. Wayne, for example, bought out, I think they said 95 houses at a cost of $6 million through the state and federal funding. It didn't affect their tax base so much because they're a big town with a lot of homes. When you take homes out of our town, it took us almost a year and a half, 2 years to get back where we were from the losses we took on taxes. So depending on the town, it affects you in a different way. So I'm happy we were invited to that meeting. We also attended our first stigma-free group that was put together. It was a well-attended meeting. I'm going to say there was 15 people there. We're going to move forward with training. That we have a grant that we received a grant from that will train our EMS, police, and fire to identify mental illness and kind of follow up and push people in the right direction and where they can get them help. And really, this whole stigma-free identification is really trying to make people understand that mental health is just like any other illness. whatever you have, it shouldn't be something you're hiding away in a closet, and I want people to be educated about mental health. So I think it's a good start for our town. You'll see a lot of more information coming through. They'll be working with our alliance closely to try to make things work. I can tell you that every principal from every high school and elementary school and middle school was there. Our fire department, our OEM, our first aid, people from Borough Hall, a lot of the organizations we work with. So it was a well-attended meeting, and hopefully we'll move forward with that. We just finished a personnel meeting with, where some discussion was made about how we can improve things with our employees. We had the snowstorm yesterday. For the most part, we didn't have real issues with people removing their cars. I just have to remind everybody, it's 24 hours your car should be off the road or until the storm is cleared. Once the plow goes by, don't go put your car back in the street, because they're normally coming around again to plow. And if your car's in the way the second time, you're going to get a ticket. Now, I did get a couple emails from some residents that were concerned. The way the plowing works here in our town is they go down the middle of the street first. They open up the street so cars can drive. Then they'll come back and go curb to curb. Okay, so I understand, and believe me, I'm a homeowner. I've been through it myself. You go out and clean out your driveway, and then when they come back curb to curb, they push it right back into your driveway. It's the part of moving snow. That's how it works. I know it's not fair, it's not happy, but it's the way it is done. We have to go curb to curb, because if we don't go curb to curb, and that freezes, and the next storm hits, the road starts to shrink down the middle. So I had a couple of residents concerned that they went curb to curb later at night and threw the snow back into the driveway. I understand them, I feel for them, but you have to remove it, and you have to move it. And when you're getting the cars off the street, they have to be off the street so they can plow. If you have to put it on your lawn at that moment, that's fine. We're not going to ticket a car for being on the lawn for that day. Eventually you have to get it off the lawn, of course, but you have to get it off the street to make sure we can plow. So years past, we used to have a real problem on the smaller streets where people were leaving their cars in the street, and we could barely get a plow through the middle of the street. So they are going to enforce that. For the most part, everybody followed it, but I have to remind everybody to do that. Unless you hear from the borough in any way, the garbage pickups or recycling pickups will be on. We will probably do a reverse 911 call or some way to let you know if it's a bigger storm, or we won't do it. I did get a couple calls about if garbage is going to be picked up and things like that. If you don't hear from the town, then we'll be moving forward with that. But again, I have to give my congratulations to the DPW, the first police, fire. Outstanding jobs. We had no real accidents in town. We had no real problems. Shade tree as usual. We didn't have any trees come down, which is always a big deal on these kind of storms with ice. So, with all these groups working together, things work forward for us in town. And that's my report. Council President?
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of things on the administrator's report that I know by the time we get to you, everyone has spoken, that I'd like to just comment on and have a few questions. The first one is the retaining walls up on Summit. They were doing a wonderful job, but frankly, they're really leaving. They're leaving us in a very tough spot. They basically haven't done work on that project in weeks, and there have been days that they could have worked. And what's happening is, during a storm like we had last night, the hill is bad to begin with, and the hill is tough under normal circumstances. That when you suddenly have that very steep incline, and the ice, and the snow, and you really have barely one lane open, and, the detour signs are sitting there, but no one's paying attention to them, because the only time that anyone pays attention to them is when the police are really there, when they're really working. That I'm really begging you to get a fire under those guys and let them finish. They've got their stuff just sitting there, and it's the worst time of year to have that type of impediment to traffic.
They can't work in the cold weather.
I know they can't work in the cold weather, but we've had some breaks. And if they can't work in the cold weather, then they need to move their stuff over better so we have much better ingress and egress. It's really dangerous up there. And yesterday and today was treacherous.
Were they removing that equipment?
There's so much, there's so far.
Well, they're not
from the
finished yet.
street.
They're planning on getting back there on Monday to put in the guide rail and to fix some of the drainage. But then they have to stop and come back in better weather, actually pave.
Right, but we hope to be out of
I'm not talking about
there.
the paving, but I mean, they got piles of gravel, they got cones way out into the, if they're not gonna work, get the guys back in there and move it off to the side so we have much better access to the road. It's really tough. Yesterday was really tough, and this morning was really, really tough. And there's just no reason for it. It's hard enough up there during these ice and snowstorms, that if they're not gonna work, they can't just leave it like that. They've gotta move it over and give better access. And don't leave a detour sign as if something's happening when nothing's
The
happening.
detour sign's not being removed. The chief would made that very clear.
That's fine, but then, know full well that no one is going to use that treacherous back, hilltop entrance. That's worse than what we've got. Then they've gotta move their stuff over. It's like they drop piles of gravel, and they put up the cones, and they just walked away and said, we'll be back in the spring. And that's really, that really can't be. So if they can't work, they gotta move their stuff over, and if there's anything you can do to get them to work, I'm not talking about the paving, I'm talking about finishing the retaining wall. I understand the paving, but the retaining wall, they just sort of drop their stuff. You got a porta potty up there, and it's really quite dangerous. So, it can't just be left like that. You know, we still have, a good 6 weeks of winter left. So, we signed off on their check, and they're getting paid, so that's fine, and they've done a bunch of work, but they can't leave us like that.
No, we haven't signed off.
We signed it.
We signed it, put in pieces, yeah.
We just signed $98,000, if you look at, so what I'm saying is, they're getting paid, please let them know that the way they're leaving us is really unacceptable. And I understand, I'm not asking them to work they can't do and whether they can't do it, but don't just be spread out like you're gonna be working every day, because then they haven't been working in weeks. The other thing that that maybe we'd have some kind of discussion, I'm not really sure about. A couple of months ago, a bunch of us had come back from the League of Municipalities, we had met several times with the representatives from the Ring video and doorbell folks, and we're toying with the idea of participating in a joint project with them. And I know it's pending, but I wasn't quite sure what we're waiting for and what
Council direction, what do you want to do with it?
Okay, so my question to the group is, if you looked at the contract that was included in our packets, one of the things that struck me, and I'm not sure which way to go, and maybe it requires a little bit more research, but one of the things that I noticed in the contract was, in order for our residents to take advantage of it, they have to buy the equipment at full retail, and they're not able to take advantage of any sale prices. So that I've noticed over the last month or so that if you look at, I think it was Costco, it might have been BJ's, I'm not sure, but a number of the big suppliers have had big coupons and promotions on these products, that before we do it, because it sounded like a wonderful program, I'd like to make sure that it's worth doing. That can our people just be no better off by participating in the program than if for some reason they were to get it at one of these promotional prices? So I really wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what kind of direction you were looking for, what kind of signals you were looking for. So I just wanted to throw it out to the
I
group.
spoke to a couple residents about it, and they said that wasn't their concern. Their concern was a lot of the residents weren't going to use the monthly service. They were just putting the ring on so they could tape it themselves and have it. The only way they get reimbursed for that service is through having the monthly service.
Okay.
So I think that's part of some of the concerns of some of the residents. They don't want to pay a monthly service.
Well, then they just don't participate
Right,
in the
then they just-
program,
right.
because that's really what the company is incentivized. They're looking for the monthly,
Right.
the monthly.
Now, my concern originally, it was always the equity issue. Town's going to put up $2,000, whatever it might be.
Right,
It's going to be first come, first served for a handful of people.
okay.
The town is funded by the whole town. So if you're not one of the first come, first serve, is that equity? know what I'm saying?
How limited in a population of 11,000 plus?
I think we're talking 100 doorbells.
Is that what?
100.
Yeah, it's probably $200 over the period.
It's what? I'm
Probably
sorry.
$200 to buy a retail.
I think
No, but he's saying something else. He's saying that only 100 residents will be able to participate, and how do we equitably,
Put more money in.
no.
my point is, you're using taxpayers' funds, and only 100 people get benefit, the whole town doesn't benefit.
Well, I mean, that's how taxes work anyways, right? I mean, some people get certain kinds of services, benefits from certain kinds of services.
My concern is,
I mean,
go back to
I have
the
other
land.
concerns beyond that, but I mean, to me, it's just like anything else.
Well, I don't agree with that. I
provided-
think everybody gets the same benefit.
No.
Of retail. So my
I
kids already
mean,
got picked up more than.
well, think about it, like, I mean, the borough pays for certain services that only go to children, or recreation.
Yes. I have no children.
Or seniors.
But every
you
resident.
collect and you distribute.
No, but every resident's allowed to use that
Not
if they want
necessarily,
it.
if they're not over 55, can they get free screenings and things like that? If they don't
No,
have
that's what
kids,
helps, but
if
recreation.
they don't have kids in Pompton Lakes, I mean, how do they use, summer camp services and things
They
like
can
that?
bring kids in.
Well, but I'm not benefiting from the Easter egg hunt, is what
I
he's
mean-
saying. I don't have children in town, and
Yeah, I mean-
so he's saying if
It's just
there's,
that's how it works. I mean, some people benefit from certain programs and some people don't. I mean, that's just how like anything works when you're using government.
Well, that's you
funds.
guys who can make that decision.
well, that's why I brought it up.
I
I got the impression you were waiting for a signal, and Eric says he has
This is your program, not mine.
that he has other concerns, so I'm curious what
I
they
think you're
are.
gonna get some kickback from people who say, I'm 101, how come I didn't get it?
Well, listen, I think most people, I don't think it's necessary, first of all, because I think if somebody's motivated to get these kind of ring systems, they're gonna go out and get it. And a government-sponsored program to supplement and require them to pay for the monthly service, while I get the argument of the overall public benefit for safety and security, I just think that people, if they want to have these devices, are probably already gonna get them anyways. And I just don't think that we need to chip in to do something like this program personally.
Have we spoken, I don't know if anyone else up here, has anyone run this by the chief in terms of whether he views it as a good incentive that?
I have, he said
Okay.
that they have very difficult times getting people to say yes to letting them visit, their footage. It's not like everybody says, oh, yes, put me on. A lot of people say, no, don't put me on. Because for whatever reason, they don't want the ability for people to see what's going on.
Yeah, I would say, let's stay out of this business.
Well, that's why.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother.
Take a straw poll now.
I would say no.
No,
Bill?
I agree, no.
Sorry?
let it go.
You're a no already?
Yes.
You're a no already?
I'm the only yes, I'm not.
Motion fails.
Well, there was no motion.
I'm just saying.
Okay. So, Eck, if you want to revisit it, we'll talk about it. But it's for the moment, we're going to let it go, correct?
Yes.
A couple of other things. As we've mentioned up here, once, perhaps twice, Michael Corelli is working to do the social media for the community. I'm just, as a reminder especially, he's very, very responsive. Anytime I send him a flyer that has been, that I'm aware of has been sent to me, he responds to it immediately. So before you trash something or forward it to someone else, remember Michael is out there to do this, and he's very receptive, and please include him in some things. So there were a couple of flyers that I did recently share with him, just quickly, and other people might be mentioning them as well. There's a free pancake breakfast. Eck, is that at your church? In March?
Mhm.
Yeah, in March 23rd, so that's quite a bit, out there. It's over a month away, but put it on your calendars. They encourage people to come, and you could probably talk more about it, but marking your calendars, that's March 23rd from 9 to 12. And there's something coming up next week. The library has a Friends of the Library. They have the 501c3 that's recently formed, and they're actively beginning to bring in some new programs and new speakers. And they are doing a program about something that I have a particular interest, but others may as well. So on Wednesday, February 20th at 6 p.m. They're doing a planning for end of life. I've done programs like that in the community and other places. Assuming I'm free, I'm going to go because I always like to hear what other people have to say. And if it is of any interest to folks either watching or in the audience, I think the person leading the discussion is coming from perspective of healthcare. I come from the legal perspective, but I think she's an RN, if I'm not mistaken. You have the flyer in front of you as an RN? Yes, Liz?
I believe it is.
Yeah, so it should be an interesting program. The other thing is, I wanted, in our packets, Liz and her staff put together a list of all the names of the employees and the committee people and their contact information, which is a very good, quick list for us to use, especially in a pinch. There is something I would like to suggest. It appears that arguably everyone has a cell phone, and most of our cell phone, ours are listed, but very few others are listed. If we could, my hunch is if people were asked if they would contribute their cell phone number, my guess is you'd get very little resistance.
That's not true. They don't want you to cell phone.
Well, I mean, we're not publishing it on 77.
They don't even want us having their cell phones.
But, there are times we need to reach out to people in an emergency or whatever, that I would like you to think about more assertively trying to go in.
Employees or board members?
The board members are the ones that are,
Yeah, the board members don't want it.
Well, I should send a memo to
Yeah.
the board.
I mean, that not to share them with us, that we can reach out to them if we have things that it seems.
They don't want to use their private phones for this.
Well, I mean, the town isn't giving any of us phones, we're all using our private
They don't, that's
phones.
their reason. They
No,
don't.
I would respectfully ask to see if they would do that, because in today's day and age, how are you communicating with people? You're by and large, you're texting them or you're emailing them, and I felt that the information we have on those sheets, if we really need to talk to them, is very inefficient. So see if people will be willing to give us more than we have on those sheets, because our cell numbers are there, and there aren't that many others that are there. So if you can, I would appreciate it. And I think that Mayor, thank you, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Just one thing I forgot to mention with the flood talks that we had with the mayors. One of the things that we've been working on as a group, we've hired an attorney to kind of contradict the flood maps, these new flood maps that are coming out. And the attorney that we're using, the expert that we're using, has kind of believes he has some identification to think that maybe the models they're using are not correct. So we're going to try to push that along a little bit. I will tell you that I was speaking with the mayor of Bloomingdale. He did the same process and was able to pull out 200 homes that were put into the floodway out of the floodway. But it costs a pretty penny to do it, so we're trying to see where we're going to get funding to do that. But I think there's some more information we'll follow on that. Councilman Giaconetti.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended just recently the Shade Tree Commission meeting. We're happy to report that they submitted the yearly accomplishment report, and the Tree City USA report has been submitted. And through that, they come up with some different facts that put down and it'd be interesting, maybe that everybody would like to hear. Through the Division of Urban and Forestry, they come up with an actual per hour set rate of volunteer hours, for that board, all the other boards that we have, and it comes to approximately $24.69. So a few times the total hours of last year that the Shade Tree Commission did, which was 767 hours, comes to almost $19,000 of value through volunteer hours. So just to give a little snapshot. Last year, because we were gracious enough to give them more money, Kevin was able to find it. They did a lot of work last year. They planted 40 trees, cost $11,655. Pruning trees, there were 69 trees pruning, that cost $13,960. Tree removal, 49 trees were removed at a total of $19,000. So that's some of the snapshots that they did. The continuing education units, the CEU, the two of them went 14.5 that they got. They're required to get 8 to continue the Tree City USA and their status. So they're well above, almost double that. that they did as a unit. Also, they had, a total of, last 5 years, since 2013, they started keeping, track. They had planted 165 trees in town, all right, since then. Since 2015, they planted 8 new trees on Whitney Ave. Since 2013, 14 trees were planted on Stiles Court area, the whole area. 2013, since then, 13 trees on Midland Ave, 5 trees planted on Falk Place. A lot of the trees that were planted were lilacs, hornbeam, Kwanzaa cherry, and October glories. So what they're trying to do, we're trying to identify a lot of the trees that are there now, that go into the power lines and everything else, and when they take them down, they try to come up with a different tree that better suits the area. Instead of ripping up the curb, ripping up the sidewalk, going into the trees, and the Jersey Central Power Lighting coming and taking half the tree away, we're focused on that, which is a good thing that the commission is doing. The other thing I just had to ask Eric, was brought up to me with the sidewalk issues. How we were talking about some of the sidewalk issues, how they're doing the corners, and a lot of times the trees encroach on the sidewalks, and they get narrow and they go around. Is part of you're working on the streetscape, does that have anything to do with that?
The complete streets really doesn't.
It doesn't have nothing, one don't have nothing to do with the sidewalks. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, they wanted to make sure before, because I know we were talking about it when you were there, Mayor, that trying to address that issue, and then, some of the other things, going in a quarter. Remember, we talked about that, maybe, we come up with a program to incentivize, the residents, if they're gonna do the sidewalks, like the borough will pick up a quarter worth of the share, and the homeowner will pick up 3/4. Because we were talking about that, because we're noticing, I know when, Randy and a couple other, people go out there, they notice a lot of the trees are uprooting a lot of the sidewalks, and the sidewalks are in bad shape. It's good that they're doing the corners, we're doing the, I guess when we pave and everything, but a lot of the homeowners, and I guess a lot of them don't want to do it because the tree's still there, it's ripping them up, and the cost of it, so it's something I know the mayor mentioned, so they were asking about that, Mayor.
Well,
So, you brought up a good point, that was a good idea.
It's a hard thing to deal with. We're an older town with older sidewalks, the people that have them.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them are in disrepair and need repair, and they can't pick up the cost. I understand it's expensive to fix a sidewalk. I toyed with the idea of seeing if we could come up with some funding somehow where, maybe we pick up a quarter of the cost, or we hire a contractor at a certain set rate that's set. So these are things we're looking into. But, part of the problem is too, you mentioned all the tree work, the trees themselves, the neighbors will complain, look, the tree is the one picking up the sidewalk, and, it's not my fault. Right or wrong, these trees put in 50 years ago, I'm not gonna argue the fact, but, we had a resident here who said there was issues when she was walking because of leaves, but, I do get people who stop me all the time, it's tough to walk on a sidewalk sometimes with a bike or a stroller, because a lot of sidewalks are uneven. So that's something I am trying to address, and you're right, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, exactly. I told him we would, yeah.
Shade Tree, just like all the other groups in town, that does a fantastic job in doing what we gotta do.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear all those numbers. But yeah, it's something we'll talk with, as a group, about the sidewalks, and see what we can do, talk to Kevin, and see what we can figure out to, try to address that a little bit.
Now,
Have we brought it to, Sue Scavone's attention, just in terms of that this is something that is a priority item, if there's something that you might be able to keep her eyes out for us?
Well, first of all, the ordinance is very clear, it's actually responsibility of the property owner.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
yeah.
So there was no grants out there for that purpose,
No.
to offset that. Again, same thing the mayor mentioned, my only concern is you put a third in, whoever it is, we have tons of sidewalks, it comes back to equity issue. Where do you start, where do you end,
But what happens if we were able to get a contractor who said, in your town, this is the set price I'm going to charge per square if you're giving me all the jobs in town, if the homeowners want to go that way? There might be a cheaper way to do that, something we could do?
You have to bid it out, probably bid it out.
Do we have to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and some people don't have sidewalks.
Well, no,
You have to get an idea how
not people with sidewalks who are paying for it, this is coming out of, a price, say it's $50 a square to replace it. From a regular guy, he'll charge $35 because he's doing our town work, and the homeowner's paying it.
Well, that's different from us picking up 25%.
No, well, that's one of the things, but they're saying.
Yeah, we're just kicking around ideas. Of course, these are just ideas.
These are just ideas.
So, like I said, there's ideas, because
What I'm saying is, would we be able to contract out to someone who would give us a better price? It has to be under 725 though, right?
No.
No, well, first, you're talking about the bid threshold.
Yes.
It won't be under the bid threshold. Right. Until it's the total cost.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, well, we'll have to think about a way to do it, because I agree with the same thing about putting money into it, but at the same time, no one's fixing the sidewalks either, so, the sidewalks should get
Well, like I
worse and
said,
worse.
this is this discussion, that's all, we're just
The problem
discussing,
you're
kicking
gonna,
ideas.
the problem you're gonna have though is that
Yeah,
if they're giving the town the price, the contract to the resident, that's a whole nother complicated issue.
Right.
Because it's not really, if the town's not really giving any money to the contractor.
No.
We just worked a better deal out in terms of
right.
cost. I'm not sure how we worked.
Some
good
towns
on
have
it.
actually gone to this step of if they're doing capital construction on a roadway, if they're repaving a roadway, what they'll actually do, they'll do two things, right? They'll either work with the contractor to try and work out a better price for the homeowners directly affected because other
okay.
out there.
Right.
Other towns, however, have gone into the step of even actually doing the sidewalks for the homeowner, but then doing a special assessment on those homes.
You do that too.
That's one of the
okay.
ways some towns are looking
Right.
at it.
That's
And
true.
that's- and
We have to get it
That's
done,
true.
it's cheaper if we do it this way now.
Right.
You're gonna be responsible for repairing and replacing your sidewalk regardless. Because the borough's doing it, we're doing a special assessment on these properties, the ones that are affected through this project. Some towns have taken that tack.
Well, it's something that we'll have to discuss a little bit,
Yeah.
because,
Well, okay, we know that the sidewalks are the homeowner's responsibility, but we have ordinances in place that require them to maintain those sidewalks.
Sure do.
And so basically you're saying that those are unenforced ordinances?
no, they're enforced, but the residents say, I can't afford to replace, three-quarters of the
Most
sidewalk around the house."
times, where the enforcement comes in, is on a resale. What happens is when Walt goes out, does a home inspection, he'll inspect certain things, and the sidewalk's one of them, and he'll say in his inspection, the sidewalk has an issue, you gotta take care of it before I sign off on your ability to continue your resale.
Yeah,
That's what usually happens more times.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Or some homeowners, sorry, Billy, or some homeowners, their actual homeowners insurance will come out and do an audit. Very rarely do, and they'll have to just say, well, if you have liability here, fix your liability, because we don't want to be on the hook for your slip and fall.
I see. Okay, so in some way, they're being very gently pushed. Okay.
What Councilman Line said before is not an unusual thing where you do, the town does the job, and then they have special assessment. It's been done here before.
All right, so it's something we can talk about.
All right, the last thing I had is, I brought up the last meeting, Bradley Glass from 112 Summit Ave. He wanted to thank Dan O'Rourke and Tim Duffy and the DPW. What he did, he went out where that construction area is, Councilwoman Riker was talking about, he picked up about 20 bags of trash along that hill area, piled it all up with all the debris, DPW picked it up. I know the mayor made comment, he even went down to, of course, with George's Market on
He did a
Riverview
great job.
Road, Hamburg Turnpike along the water there, picked up another 10 or 12 bags there of trash and buckets and everything else that he did, and the DPW came and picked it up from there, so.
I'd like to give him the thank you for actually doing it.
That's what I said to him. I said,
DPW picked it up.
He
spent a
thanked
lot
him,
of
I said,
time
I
picking up that
appreciate
garbage,
it.
and I
He
thank
said
him
the
because-
weather's better, he's gonna hit Riverview Road, he's gonna hit, Mathis Ave. So, I wanted to thank Bradley, because listen, he complained about it, talked about it, he actually went out there and did it.
That's great, that's
So,
what I love.
so, I just wanted to put that out
Good
there.
for him.
Thank you to him. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Calabari.
Bradley Glass.
Thank you. So I was not here for the last council meeting, I apologize, but I do have a lot of stuff to get through. All happy, positive stuff, but I do have a motion to read first.
Brad Glass.
So I have a motion to approve the
112.
request for Pompton Lakes Riverdale Little League to conduct the annual parade on Saturday, April 6, 2019, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The parade route begins at the Pompton Lakes High School parking lot through the business district onto Joe Brill Little League complex. Traffic pattern will be monitored and controlled by the police department. Do I have a...
It's a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Council President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Then that leads me into my first point on my notes. That does conflict with the Easter egg hunt that was originally scheduled for April 6th. So the Easter egg hunt is being moved to the 14th, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with a rain date of March 20th, and that will be at the tennis courts at Hirschfield Park.
How could the rain date be after the...
No, they did it that way on purpose, because they're doing it on Sunday, so it's the following Sunday.
Okay. Okay, but the rain, you said March. That's what I was confused about.
14th,
14th, that sounds right.
and then a rain date of
Okay,
the 20th?
so April 14th, not March.
No, so it's being completely moved. It was originally scheduled for the same day as opening day of the Little League.
Right.
And now it's being moved to March 14th
To March?
with a rain date of March 20th. Right?
March 14th, Thursday.
Yeah.
March 14th is a Thursday?
I have the 14th. What's the 20th? Is it April?
That's what I'm asking. That's my
Must be
question.
Is April
It's April,
20th
I got it in my
Sunday?
calendar, it's April
Yeah, it's gotta be
14th
April.
at 3 o'clock.
So don't go to the Easter egg hunt on March 14th because no one will be there. So
Okay,
it's
so-
April 14th with a rain date of April 20th.
Saturday,
Do I have
yes.
this right?
Okay, so
Yes, I got it.
the hunt is on the Sunday.
Let me help the councilwoman. We're rescheduling our Easter egg hunt from from April 6th, which is the day of the parade, to April 14th at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday. We don't usually do it on a Sunday, but we're doing it at 3 o'clock after most of the masses and religious services are over at 3 o'clock. If it rains, it will be that same Saturday, the 20th, at 3 o'clock.
Are we good now?
Now we're good.
Okay.
As long as I get my Easter egg, I'm happy.
So, also, the rec committee has some clinics coming up, softball clinic and the field hockey clinic, both take place at Lakeside. Both are for grades 1 through 8, both cost $70, Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 8:30. The softball clinic is from April 1st to April 5th. You need to bring your mitt. The field hockey clinic is it's the whole following week, Monday through Friday, and you need to bring a hockey stick, shin guard, and mouth guards. They also still have the walking club going on, and yoga, and the men's basketball clinic. And the Get Fit program is starting on Monday, March 11th, and it runs through May 1st. They have a very exciting 8-week program lined up where there will be boot camp, kickboxing, Pilates, yoga, cardio, step. It's Monday and Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 at the Lincoln School. If you have perfect attendance, you get a free T-shirt. The full session is $50, $35 for 10 classes, or a $5 drop-in fee. So that actually sounds like a lot of fun. So be sure and check that out. Additional information for all of the rec club programs are on their Facebook page on the website. I also have the vendor applications for Pompton Day are now available. They are in the lobby of the municipal building. And on to the MUA. I was unable to attend the MUA meeting this month, but I do want to make mention of the fact that Commissioner Mike Longo was reappointed for a term effective February 1st of 2019. And I did attend my first open space meeting in January. I'm looking forward to working with that group. Also, through the Elks, we again had our 4th Sunday breakfast, which was very nice. We had the veterans come out, so we are able to invite the veterans to join us to have breakfast once a month. Elks have a breakfast for the community on the 4th Sunday. It's a wonderful breakfast, a very great price, and we have the veterans come in where we serve them for free and pay our respects, and they're always welcome to come. And it's a very lovely morning, so we encourage you to join us for that. We did have our coffee with the council again on the first Friday of the month in the morning. There has been some talk that we may be changing it to a weeknight. We're trying to figure out what's going to be the most accommodating to everyone's schedule. It seems like the mornings are very difficult. We had moved it to earlier in the morning, and then we had some work conflicts and schedule changes, so, you know, there's an hour that we had scheduled it for that will be unattended now, so I think we're going to move it to the evening. It's important that we try to continue to do that, because it's our way of letting the community know that we are accessible, that we are out there, that we welcome hearing your thoughts and your concerns and your comments outside of just these meetings. So we will post information on that, which you can see on the new Facebook page that Terry had mentioned earlier. Michael Corelli did an excellent job in sharing that information for us. He created an invitation that was better than any one I had ever done before, so I encourage you to like that page and follow that information on Facebook as well. Which brings me to the Women's Club. I did attend the International Outreach Dinner for the Women's Club. We are always looking for new members, and I do have to give a shout out to Jennifer Keene, who has been doing a tremendous job with a project that she's been working on through the community called Souls for Souls. At last count, she had collected 520 pairs of gently used shoes for either women, men, or children that get given out for individuals that are in need of shoes. So if you look on the Women's Club Facebook page and on some of the other local Facebook pages, their information is there as to where you can leave the shoes. If you're interested in donating, that is, I think last week it was 300 and something, so it's gone up tremendously. So she's doing an excellent job with that. And then I have, we also wrapped up in January the cybersecurity event that we were working on in conjunction with the police department. We had 2 sessions in December, if you remember. We also had 2 additional sessions in January where the parents were invited to come back with their children. It was an open discussion with the police department for the children about what cyber predators look like, what personal information is, what you should and shouldn't talk about when you're online. And it was also a way for some of the parents to become aware of what some of the games that the children are playing, what some of the connectivity looks like. And I was very happy to be a part of that, because I think it's important that we have these programs available through our community to help our families become educated with what we have going on and what we're facing as parents today. So we do have the Prevention Coalition and a lot of other resources that are available through the town for families to educate them on, ways that we can keep our community strong and our children safe. Which leads me to something that is a little bit personal and very, very happy. I'm very proud to admit that last Monday, I attended an assembly at Lenox School for the Cardinal Flight Program. The Cardinal Flight Program is a group of children through Lenox and Lincoln in the 5th grade that were selected by past and present teachers of the children that were selected because of their acts of kindness or their ability to act as mentors or role models to the younger children. My son is a member of the Cardinal Flight Team. So I did attend the assembly. It was their kickoff for a project that the Cardinal Flight Team is working on called Look for the Good. So if you notice, if you have children in the schools, when you walk through the hallways of Lincoln and Lenox, they've put up what they're calling a gratitude wall, where all of the children in the school are welcome to take Post-it notes and put messages of happiness on the wall, things that they're thankful for, things that make them happy. During the assembly, the Cardinal Flight Team shared messages of where they feel their gratitude from, things that they appreciate. And there are circles on the floor in the hallways where, as you walk through, you're encouraged to stand on them in the middle of the hallway and share with whoever's around you something at that moment that you feel happy about. So my son stood up and told everyone that he was grateful for his dog, because his dog helps him get through tough times, and he helps his dog, the dog helps him get through tough times. We just got a puppy a month and a half ago, so we have a new addition to our family, which leads me to my last topic. Because we have this new puppy, we've been spending a lot of time at the dog park, which is in Hirschfield, so I do want to thank the DPW for maintaining it and keeping it nice. My dog is having a wonderful time there, and I think it's very nice that we have things like that in our town for the community to go out and enjoy the outdoors and meet new people. I, on my first day there, in 5 minutes, met a woman that put me on a group text with just about anyone that goes to the dog park, and now every day I get messages, we're going to the dog park, we're going to the dog park, and when you go down there, there's always anywhere from 8 to 10 people that are just talking and having a good time and letting the dogs run, so it's a very nice part of the community. So that's it, that's my notes.
Well, congratulations to your son, first off, but secondly, I think that's a great program the school is running. I think the good news that people hear from kids is especially important, so I think that's a very good program. One thing I should mention, again, I forgot to mention in my report, was the school had a meeting with all the sports organizations in town, myself, to identify how they'll be using the new field at Lakeside Park, at Lakeside School. They have a new structure and pay structure on how it'll be used. I think it was pretty fair to most groups. I know the town or the recreation groups are right below the high school groups, so I think you'll be seeing a lot of action on that field between our local recreation programs and the high school. They have automatic lights that will go off automatically, I think at 8:45 or 9:45? 9:30, so 9:30, so no matter what's going on, the lights go off automatically at 9:30. I'm excited about the field. I think it's a good addition to our town. I think people who are coming to look at a town, to live in a town, are going to see that field and say that's a nice addition to the town. So it's an exciting thing for us, and it's an exciting thing for the Board of Ed. Councilman Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Polidori took some of what I was going to mention about the Cardinal flight team. My daughter Katie is also a member on the Lincoln School, so I was going to congratulate Jennifer for her son being on the Lennox Cardinal flight team.
Well, then we're going to congratulate Katie.
Thank you. So, in addition to what Councilwoman Polidori mentioned, they also have little cards, little You Matter cards that they hand out to their peers. Teachers can hand out to their students and whatnot. So it kind of encourages the building of the community. And what I've noticed about the fifth grade class, they've been together since kindergarten, some of them back and forth.
Little Lamb.
Some of them since Little Lamb, yes. But kindergarten through fifth grade, they've been in classes together or opposite classes, but they kind of have this tight group going on, and hopefully that'll last through Lakeside and the high school, and hopefully they'll spread their positive.
I think it's an amazing time to start this, because I remember going through the transition from fifth grade to Lakeside with
Big
Paige.
transition, yeah.
It was really difficult. So I think this kind of camaraderie amongst them is going to help that transition when they start middle school.
Yep. So this is cool. Library Board of Trustees met end of January. There may be a position opening in the next during the next year. If anybody's interested in joining the library board, please reach out to me. The next meeting is scheduled for February 25th. Technology Committee now meets quarterly. The last meeting was February. The next meeting will be April, first Thursday, 7 o'clock. We discussed ideas for potential projects this year, one of which includes a parking meter app, where previously I brought it up, and it's like there's infrastructure involved. There's either a replacement parking meter, people don't have cash, whatever. This app, from what I read, runs independently of any of that. All you need to do is put an indicator of what parking spot you're going to be parking at, which I think each meter is individually marked anyway, and they pay for it via the app, and the town gets the revenue, and people can park without worrying about running to a store and coming out to a parking ticket.
So one of the things I was going to talk about later in privilege of the floor was I'm going to be putting together a parking group. We're going to be discussing, because the meters are going to be changing. We're going to go to uni meters probably, and that'll be addressing what you're talking about now, where you can pay online and pay with a credit card and things like that. So I think we're moving closer to that in the near future.
The reason we're looking into this, because the infrastructure wasn't required. You can probably use it in combination for the time being, and then transition over to the uni meters, or however we decide to do the pay stations.
Okay.
And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations to your daughter also. Councilman Begg.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Police Department report for the month of January from Chief Moses Augusto. There were 1,792 calls for service for the month of January. There were 502 motor vehicle stops, 238 motor vehicle summonses issued, 17 motor vehicle accidents investigated, no DWI arrests, 26 alarm conditions burglary, 14 alarm conditions fire, 8 fire calls, 66 ambulance requests, 5 burglaries, 7 thefts, 14 domestic, and 0 sexual assaults contacts, and 0 aggravated assaults. The Detective Bureau investigated 21 complaints, served 15 subpoenas, and 1 warrant. I attended the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition meeting on January 24th. Kelly Keck of Empathy Community Services went over the 2018 evaluation of the coalition. 3 of the major accomplishments of the coalition were participation in the statewide Knockout Opiate Initiative, translated ID checking guides into Spanish, and coalition members dispersed them to alcohol vendors, and providing school staff with training on ends. Also discussed at the meeting was the proposed marijuana legislation in New Jersey. Coalition recently held 2 vaping presentations at Pompton Lakes High School, one for the public and one for the faculty. I received the Pompton Lakes Fire Department report for the month of January and from Fire Prevention Chief Al Bruno. He reported there were 36 alarms in January. I attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on February 5th. Jake Renko, the principal of the Lakeside School, and staff and students gave a presentation on the highlights of academic program at Lakeside School. The highlights of the presentation were, A, the hiring of a counselor who is focused on working with students deemed academically at risk. B, the middle school has initiated a dance curriculum. The state of New Jersey requires that for middle school students. So they're given an option to participate in such visual and performing arts as dancing. The independent learning projects program has been expanded to the 6th grade and now covers grades 6 through 8. The middle school has instituted a social studies online textbook program. This was done to benefit the implementation of the one-on-one Chromebook initiative. Students today are increasingly utilizing digital text to receive and interpret information. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of January from Chief Sean Pileppi. There were 105 calls for the month, 55 calls in Pompton Lakes, 21 in Riverdale, 7 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 72 medical emergency calls, 2 CPR calls, 5 fire calls, 15 trauma injury calls, and 5 motor vehicle accident calls. So that's what it is.
You know, I attended the first aid installation dinner, and there they talked about some of the saves they had throughout the community. Some of them were pretty impressive, what they did there. You know, these are volunteers from our town who are bringing people back to life after they pass away. You think about what they're doing there. It's an amazing group of people that spend a lot of time and energy, and I know our own councilman has been involved for many years with it. You know, they probably don't get the credit they deserve by going out to all these ambulance calls on their own. So kudos to them, and it was a beautiful dinner that they had, and we pass that on to them. Councilman Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to follow up on Bill's comment, because I also attended the Board of Education meeting, and Bill really did a great job covering what they presented. But one of the things I thought was interesting was the independent learning classes. You know, when I went through school, and I think a lot of people, you know, up in the dais and on the audience remember shop classes, and baking classes, and all that stuff. That's more or less gone. But, you know, with the independent learning classes, it really allows the students to engage in a subject that they're interested in. And I just wanted to highlight some of the various projects that are available that they spend a couple of weeks working on. You know, they have people that picked up projects: art, music, dance, technology, computer science, cooking, sewing, coding, dressmaking, digital movie making, oil painting. Someone is making a 3D printed robotic arm. Another person's making a cabinet display, or a baseball display cabinet. One student did a VR world of, they included the Eiffel Tower in Tinkercad. Another student, she is making her 8th grade dance dress, and she was starting to show off and talked a little bit about it. So, you know, even while we can look back and say, you know, they're not teaching kids the way, you know, that we learned. I mean, they're opening up this whole world of what kids are interested in, and kids are doing their own research and deciding what projects they do want to pursue. And I thought it's a really, really interesting and creative approach to it, and it engages kids doing something that they actually want to be doing instead of, you know, baking or, you know, shop class or things like that, being forced into one of those things or another. So
I was actually very impressed with the coding for the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, that was really neat.
That was very neat, and I was impressed with her and you know, putting her 8th grade dress together.
Yeah, that's pretty daring.
Yeah.
If I tried to sell something, I wouldn't be wearing it.
Exactly.
Well, you wouldn't look good in a dress.
No, well, not a dress either. Changing subject. On Saturday, March 16th, at 12 p.m., the Stormwater Management Committee will be hosting another rain garden workshop. There is, actually, if you go to the borough's Facebook page, you can see the announcement there. They would like to get some kind of indication of RSVPs to make sure that it's worth holding, otherwise we'll just cancel. It's going to be in the Civic Center. Participants of the workshop will receive guidance on locating and constructing their rain garden along with a planting plan. If anyone, obviously everyone knows we've had a heck of a wet 2018, and while we've been pretty lucky in terms of the flooding, what things like rain gardens do and rain barrels and some of the things that the Stormwater Management Committee has been doing over the past couple of years is also known as green infrastructure. And green infrastructure, it reduces the immediate load on the sewer system. It reduces the stormwater runoff into the rivers, and it sort of holds back all the rainwater that can come down. So projects like these, they're small, but put together, they can be very effective. And the committee's been very busy the last couple of years holding these kind of workshops. So I encourage anyone to attend, whether they live in a flood-prone area or not, because it's all part of one ecosystem. Coming up this Sunday at 2 p.m., the Trail Maintenance Committee will be doing one of its winter maintenance days. We'll be meeting at the Willowfield back parking lot. If you come, bring gloves and hand tools such as loppers. The committee will be providing trash bags, typically in the winter ones. A lot of it's just policing up through the trails and picking up garbage. At that point, there's not much, or there's really no growth at that point. Usually that's the summertime. So it's just getting the trails in a nice looking position for the spring and summer months, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of a drier 2019. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Professional reports.
I have no
Minister's report.
I provided the governing body with my report last week. I'll just give the highlights, because it's rather lengthy otherwise. We received from Comores the fourth quarter 2018 program report and outlines all of the undertakings Comores is doing on and off the old DuPont site. We also received an evaluation from NJDEP on the old PSC&G site on Montclair Ave, relative to their undertaking remediation of that site. We will not be doing a CDBG grant application for 19, because we pretty much ran out of curbs and sidewalks to do, a low amount of area. The library is looking, though, really trying to put a handicapped elevator in. That would be a townwide benefit, so we want to maybe try to get some CDBG money next year toward that goal. We were supposed to have a finance meeting yesterday at 3 o'clock to go over the 19 budget. Unfortunately, the snow kind of got in the way, so we're going to meet next Thursday at 3. The goal was to have the budget for introduction on February 27th, and I don't remember ever introducing a budget this early in many years. The capital budget's done too. That'll be every part of our discussion during the budget process. I provided the governing body with the 2018 annual debt statement. It shows that it actually went down by a small tenth of a point, but the important thing is that we're at 0.70% of net debt for the value of our town. The law allows you to be at 3.0%, so we are well below the maximum allowed debt load, which is a good thing, which is why I try to increase this year's capital budget to actually fund $20,000 worth of road paving that's not funded by grants. So we can start doing some of these roads in the south end, use the co-op money, and not get crazy, but do the mill and pave and do some drainage. So we can start the process of trying to refix our infrastructure on a larger basis. I also provided the council with a copy of the tax rate comparison that goes back from 2008 to the present, based upon our preliminary budget that we were going to discuss yesterday. And lastly, our open space application, the timing changed. We were supposed to plan on having a open space hearing, our next council meeting. What's happened basically is that the notification times changed. It's always usually been 10 days prior to the hearing. You put the ad in the paper and you notify all the residents for 200 feet. Well, the county changed to 30 days. And nobody seemed to know that, including all the paid grants people that were involved in this process. And what happened is that, even at the county meeting that they had, they never outlined the fact that that timeframe changed from 10 days to 30 days. So it was brought up to Kathleen and Karen that half the towns in Passaic County aren't meeting the notice requirements, so it's a technical issue, it's never going to be noticed. What?
What are they doing to address that?
Well, they now made it so that they're due on the 30th of April, and not the more. So, but that's why delay, it's not anything we did, it was the fact that this information about the notice really didn't get out to the public, and so we would all be delinquent, and then it goes everything into a quandary, so, that's it.
So just so the residents understand, we try to do our road maintenance, some of these roads are older, have been paved for a long time, some of them have been hit by storms. So what the administrator's trying to produce is, try to get a system going where we can kind of cover the roads as we move along and try to get to them a little more often than what we have been in the past. It's a very expensive proposition. This is not cheap to redo roads. So we'll do a little at a time and try to catch up where we are. So I know we all hear sometimes, when are they going to pave my road, when are they going to pave my road?
Well, help me out, what Borough Engineering has done, so Borough Engineers, is they've done the south end of town so far, and they've raised the roads from worst to best. And so our goal is to start doing the roads that are the worst, to get them paved, to work our way down the list. There's 50-some roads on the south end of town, so we have to understand that. Same thing for the other side of town. We're going to do that from worst to best and start working on the list that way. So eventually, if somebody calls and says, you can say, well, your road is bad relative to your perception, but compared to XYZ road, which is literally falling apart, we'll kind of get an idea where they're at in the queue. That's one of the things you have to do. There is no real expectation of where you are. Now, at least we can say to you, this is where you sit in the queue, this is what we're looking to get to that point.
And it's not a judgment call. It won't be a judgment call by somebody sitting up here saying this road should be done instead of this road.
Right.
We're hiring an independent engineer to come in, look at all the roads. He'll make a list and tell us which roads have to be done first, and we'll take it from there. So that way, no one's accused of, you didn't pave my road, or you paved his road before my road. So I think it's a good system, and we're just starting it this year, and we'll see how that goes. Any questions for the administrator?
The only question I have is are they going to be doing the bridge on Lakeside Ave by the new field?
They're doing both bridges.
Yeah, they're going to be doing both.
They're doing both bridges. The one on Lakeside, if you recall, I was before done this in the fall.
Yeah, because I've seen signs going up there.
The problem was that they didn't want to start the concrete work in the fall, have a problem, it got too cold.
Okay.
So they're now going to start as soon as the weather breaks. So the county's posted the signs. They're going to do that bridge there, and they're going to repave that. Then they're going to do from where Lakeside comes in, the base of the hill, all the way across to Wayne.
Really?
Let me do that bridge too.
Okay.
So it's going to be a double hit.
So I get a lot of calls about the bridge, Lakeside Bridge.
Yeah, because you can't even walk on it.
Over Raffle River.
In the great wisdom of the county,
Yeah.
I called and complained. They came and paved up to the borderline of Pompton Lakes and then stopped and wouldn't pave into Wayne. They said that's not, you didn't call, so they called. But now we just called recently, and they're going to be redoing the whole bridge, so that they'll be paving that. But it is pretty dangerous coming across that bridge from the Wayne side. It's not great. So
That's
unfortunately,
good news.
yeah. So they'll be doing the whole bridge and the small bridge in front of the Rotary Park. The one that we paved temporarily will be redone. So those.
They're going to fix the sidewalk and
So you can walk,
the walk bridge there. And bottom line is the kids have to walk on the opposite side of the street to get to the school.
Good projects that we need done.
All right, good.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ted.
Okay. Motion open to me for public comment.
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilwoman Palladori. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Step up.
I spell. Question going from report to report.
No name and address, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Millie Perciello, 444 Millen Avenue. Council Polirati, those programs are great. I have my grandson came home so proud with his bully that he stopped a new child in school, and someone was bullying him, so he ran and got him out of the bullying situation and brought him inside, and so that we were very proud of that. So,
Absolutely.
So it's good. The programs I have in school is excellent. He does great with that. So I'm happy that they're
It
doing
takes a lot of courage for a kid to step into another
Yes, the
situation.
third grade.
and-
He's in third grade, but
You should be
he's,
proud.
yes, we are. And he does go after kids that are being bullied. He goes after new kids that come in, who introduce them, who take them around, and so he's absolutely great, and I love him. So that's great programs. Mayor, I understand Civic Center is not going down,
Going down,
destroyed, it's down, and
it's gonna be redone,
it's going to be redone.
yes.
I hope soon, before everything falls in our heads when we get to the meetings.
We're in talks and negotiation, maybe finding a place for some, our seniors. I'm not at liberty to say exactly yet what we're gonna do, but I can tell you that if the project happens in the back there, part of the project is redoing the outside of the building and the inside of the building at the Civic Center.
Okay, and it stays the same,
Same.
meetings
Everything's
and all
same,
that?
yes. Well, we get new
Everything's the
furniture,
same.
new kitchen, and
Right.
new everything.
Okay, so we don't have to put up with the ants in the summer,
I
the
would hope so,
ceiling falling on our
yes.
heads.
That's if the project goes through, yes.
Okay. Councilman Records, she was recorded on Summit Ave. Is the wall going through the old street or just a portion of it, or is
No, it's
it
a retaining wall on the back
retaining
side.
wall, but it's gonna be the old Summit Ave? No.
Retaining wall, if you have Summit, the retaining wall above Glen Court comes up to race the road. It's not.
It's not, if you're asking if it's the whole wall on the back, no, it's just a
No,
piece.
it's just that piece of it.
The worst part of it, where it was coming down.
Okay, so what happens to the other homes where they get the water going down through their
Well,
building?
we're gonna repave it with a curb, I think, is that correct? With a curb on the outside, which will
Oh,
kind of
okay.
channel water down the street.
So there is gonna be something that'll...
We don't know where that curb came from, there's actually like a makeshift curb there, somebody years ago put something in that wasn't
Right,
real, so
yeah.
we're gonna put a real one in there.
Okay, good. Councilman Penley. No, I'm going from report to report. We're reporting about the trees and the sidewalk, so you're
That was
talking about
Councilman
that. Yeah, Jacanetta. So if my sidewalk is humping and you're doing this program, and the tree that's there actually does this to my sidewalk. So I replace it, I fix it, but I still have the same tree that's gonna do the same thing again. So you're asking me to fix my old sidewalk, and that tree's gonna do it again.
And this is the problem we
So
have.
what is the problem, how you gonna do that?
I think the problem is, and look, we didn't know things back when we planted those trees 50 years ago.
Yes,
So
I
those
understand that.
trees were put in, and they are causing some damages on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There's no question of that. But if you go by the law of the page, it's gonna say it's the homeowner's responsibility.
Yes, I know that.
I know years ago, people used to shave roots, they don't do that, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't do that anymore?
No, there's.
Oh, they still do
They
that?
still do,
They
yeah.
still shave them.
So they can shave them down and move them. I know people have told me they were actually able to move a whole piece of sidewalk, shave the root down and roll the piece of sidewalk back
I've done
on.
that too.
Right, so I mean, there's options to do it, but you're right, I mean, it does affect it.
But it affects, because that tree, so what I'm saying is, okay, so get rid of my tree, because I'm constantly fixing my sidewalk.
Then everybody would be on the shade tree list to get rid of my tree. That was
Get
the
rid of my
problem.
tree and put
We
the other
actually
tree
talked
up.
about this,
But-
Millie, the last
but-
meeting.
But that's true, it's really what's happening.
We're having a different vision, a different thinking. We're
Okay.
thinking outside the box, and a lot of that we're looking at now, even as Randy, maybe come and speak about it, to look and actually take trees like that down and replant something different. This way you can do the sidewalks once they're done, we'll put a different tree in with less roots, that won't happen again. That's what some of the vision we're actually doing, to replace that one for one, that this way to
Because there's a
encourage you
lot
to
of-
do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of residents.
We actually
with
had
that problem.
two different people that were in there, this past meeting, that were discussing that, and said, listen, you take these trees down, we'll do the sidewalks. We said, listen, we'll partner with you, we'll do the sidewalks, we'll get it done, we'll put the trees back there, so you can put a tree back. So, which is still nice. So you're taking one down, yeah, it's a mature tree, but it's probably at its life expectancy, but yet you're gonna be replaced with new trees.
It's a complicated
That's
problem, it's not an
It-
easy
it
fix.
is,
Between
yeah.
the sidewalks and the trees, it's not an easy fix, and it's not a cheap fix. And it's been neglected over many, many years, so we're at least trying to address it. How it's gonna go from the future, I can't tell you. I understand when homeowners, like you're saying, I'm not gonna fix
Just
my
a thought to
sidewalk
put it out
if
there,
the tree is
yeah.
gonna ruin my sidewalk again. I understand that.
Right.
So these are things we're gonna have to address.
Okay,
Yeah.
just a thought it would be on the table with that.
Yep.
Fixing all the streets and all, what about the curbs? I mean, you fix the street and the curbs are nothing anymore. You have no
Is
curbs.
curbing in with that?
Is curbing
Probably,
included with
any
that?
streets we do, is there curbing on that too?
We'll have to.
Yeah, okay. So any streets we do.
The streets that have curbs, you have to replace the curbs. There's no way you can lay your sidewalk down, there's no curbs.
Well, it's been done before.
No, she's talking about the paving.
The paving of the
So
street.
when they pave it, they'll replace the curb too?
It's curb easier because you're not gonna put new asphalt next to a curb that doesn't face.
Okay. So yes.
Yeah, because, I mean, I asked even the county if they're doing Ringwood Avenue, because you have no curbs on Ringwood Avenue at all.
Right.
So I said the same thing to them. If you're gonna do the street, you need to address the curb, because there's nothing
The
there.
county's gonna tell you they don't do curbs.
Right. County doesn't do curbs.
Yes. And then also, is that responsibility of the homeowner, the curbs? No,
If I understand it correctly, it's the responsibility of the town.
the town, right? Okay.
Because the tree is pulling up my curb, so I'm gonna call the town and complain about the curbing.
Denied.
They're gonna deny it anyway, don't worry, Mayor. Okay. Well, those were my questions on what everyone was discussing.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up. No.
Mrs. Stigliano, 26 Car Street. First of all, congratulations to both Council Polidori and Ben, being a parent from Cardinal Flight alumnus. You know, it's a wonderful feeling, so congratulations. Couple questions from some of the discussions that you guys brought up. Back to the curbing, well, that's still fresh in my mind. All I have are where I live, I don't have sidewalks, so it's not a problem for me. But if you have a sidewalk that needs to, and these are just curiosity questions on my behalf, if you have a sidewalk that needs to be repaired, and as a homeowner, it's my responsibility to repair it, there's a tree there that caused the damage, am I allowed as a homeowner, at my cost, to take that tree down? So it's still the
It's in the right of way of what we own.
Okay.
So the trees are really protected by the town. And
Okay.
that's why we have a shade tree commission. And that's why they do what they go out and look at the tree, make a decision, if it stays, if no good, do we replace it?
Right.
You can't just cut the front tree now. We're talking about the tree on the sidewalk.
Right, the tree that's causing the damage, seeing how they do these projects, because I've seen them do it, cut the roots out and, re-pour, you're damaging the tree, at that point, and its, capability of its life expectancy, and with the weather possibly it going down anyway and causing even more damage. At that point, if that happens, is that the responsibility of the homeowner again if it pulls up the sidewalk?
Yeah.
So the homeowner is taking a lot of responsibility on that sidewalk that they can't control, whether they want to protect themselves after the fact, even at their own cost.
Right, and the trees have a lot to do with that, and they're older trees with bigger roots.
Right.
So, the shading of the tree, I know there was talk years ago about it wasn't safe for the tree because wind or something could come and pull the tree down and pull it on a house. I know maybe they've switched that thinking, I don't know, but I know part of the problem is with the homeowners and the trees is they passed their life expectancy to what they are.
Right.
They were just put in the wrong.
I see that a lot on Midland Avenue.
Yeah.
I have an aunt that lives on
So we
Midland
can't
Avenue. I
replace
see
it,
that.
just like the sidewalks, the streets, we can't replace every tree, so we'll.
No, completely understandable. That's why my question was, as a homeowner, if I say, hey, look, I'm gonna fix the sidewalk, I don't want you guys to pay to take the tree down, but I wanna take the tree down because I don't want it to ruin my sidewalk again, can I do that? Or, if the town decides that tree needs to go down now, it's past its life, can I, as a homeowner, decide, I don't want you to put another tree there?
So I think the way we're working it now, and that's what Councilman Giacoletto was just talking about, if we can work out a deal with the homeowner and the tree's gonna come down, they're gonna put another tree up, but it won't be a tree that's gonna cause damage to the sidewalks. They'll identify a tree that'll work better there, that'll go back in. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because we have the shade tree commissioner here, we're not taking out trees and not putting trees back in.
Well, it's on a case-by-case basis. We do take trees out. I'll speak up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what that. In reference to the Summit Ave, I mean, this is my first council meeting, so I didn't know what's really going on, but, that project there, when did that project start, and what was its time expectancy from start to
We
finish?
hope to finish it before the winter. We had a wet summer,
So they were just back
I
on?
got back on.
Okay, all right, so that's understandable.
So
And
it's still in the contract timeframe to complete.
so they're still within their specifications of getting it done?
Contract timeline.
Okay, so, okay, it's understandable. And one last comment I have, and hopefully a request as a parent, of a child that's in Little League, and an ex-board member of the league, and putting a lot of time down there, as you may know. Our fields are taken care of by the DPW, and we appreciate it. The problem with baseball fields is they require a ton of maintenance. And I'm not here standing representing the league, I'm here standing representing a resident and a parent of a child or children that's been playing there, past and present. And being involved in trying to help maintain these fields are very extensive for the volunteers, that volunteer for the league. The problem with Little League ball fields, or any ball field, is not only does the grass need to be cut on a weekly basis in the spring, but also everything needs to be edged. And that takes a lot of work down there because there's a lot of fencing and all the edge lines. Anybody who has a landscaper that does work at their home, they come and edge your beds or your sidewalks. It gives a nice crisp, clean edge around everything. The ball fields need that too. And we spent last year was my last year, 2018 was my last year as part of the board, and we spent over $5,000 having a landscaper come in to edge the grass lines on 2 ball fields. And the problem is, 3 weeks later, they need to be done again. And, to pay someone to do that, it would just not be cost effective. And, we don't want to, the league doesn't want, I don't want to say we, the league doesn't want to, infer that cost to the parents, to the league. So I'm making kind of a request and a comment of hopefully getting a little more help from the DPW when it comes to maintaining those fields, because baseball is probably one of the most, most involved when it comes to maintenance of the ball fields. Not asking for money, not just a little more time down there for the guys to, even if it takes them, they gotta come a couple visits, it's understandable, especially in the spring because the grass grows like
So
crazy.
you should know that one of the things that I put on the agenda when I became a councilman, just before I even became mayor, the DPW did not used to take care of any of the properties, and each league was responsible for taking care of their own property, and at a cost. And I said, we really should have our DPW taking care of the fields, or our fields at the end of the day. So we got them to cut it. That was the first step. We could probably talk to them about edging, but here's what I'm going to tell you, and I tell everybody what involves the DPW. They are not landscapers by trade. These are people that are doing many different jobs under one hat. So their skills at doing certain things might not be comparable to a landscaper. So they might edge, but it might not be the quality of edging you need or want. We've had discussions about the cutting, and I've always told them, Tim Duffy, who is the assistant director down there, is really in charge of that, and I said, I have no problem with the sports groups calling him directly. He's pretty reasonable to talk to when it comes to taking care of it, and I know he takes pride in how they're going to look. So you can easily call him and discuss it with him. I will give him a call myself also and ask him how he feels about doing it, and what manpower-wise and time-wise what it entails. But they probably have not been doing edging, I will tell you that.
Oh, yeah, just from personal experience, I know they haven't, and what becomes a big burden is along the fences, because,
The fences, I think they could do, because that's just cutting it.
Yeah, that's just trimming what we want.
So we might be able to get through something like that.
Don't get me wrong, I've seen them do a beautiful job edging around all the monument parks, the grass, they look good, so I know they have the capability of edging the lawn, they're pretty good at it. I'm just asking, it's not something that needs to be done on a weekly basis, but, the problem is, the infields had to be cut out almost 2 feet to get back to its original, where they originally were cut out.
Yeah, the
Because
infield
of over the years,
is the one
growing.
they're gonna have an issue with. I think,
Yeah.
I can get them to do fencing and things like that, but the infield might be an issue.
Okay, well, it was just a comment,
Okay.
and that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Ave. Being shade tree issues have come up, I'll speak for the shade tree. A lot of times, if a homeowner wants to fix his sidewalk, and the tree is really causing a problem, and the tree is past its prime, we will let the homeowner take the tree down at his cost because of funds that we have available. We don't have enough for all the work we can do. A lot of times, scheduling-wise also, I'm not going to be able to get Downs Tree Service to come in for another 2-3 months, and the homeowner would like to solve the problem now, so a lot of times we do give permission once we go out and look at the tree and see the condition.
But it has to be a reason for the tree, right?
Correct,
If it's a healthy tree, you're not going to say...
No, if it's a healthy tree, I mean, sometimes healthy trees are causing a sidewalk issue. Then, like we say, we could take the slab out, we can shade the roots, and, yes, you're putting a new sidewalk in, and yes, it may start to lift the sidewalk again in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, but that's the name of the game, you know. We can't just be cutting down healthy trees. Healthy trees are such an asset to the town. Yes, we do work with them. Councilwoman Polidari just asked me in the new home that she bought that there's a tree there that I'll go by tomorrow or the day after and look at it to see if it's a borough tree or if it's her personal tree. So we work with the residents as best we can. Let's see, what else was there? Yeah, and I want to thank the mayor. He was at, not the last meeting, but the meeting before, and he was talking about the sidewalk issues. And it's ongoing. We're going to take some time before we can maybe come up with a program. But I mean, just like the resident here saying, it's the town tree causing my sidewalk a problem, but it's my responsibility. Can't the town help out a little bit? So that's what the mayor was talking about, and I'm glad to see that. We're going to be discussing that in the future.
So what we can do.
You know, well, and we'll look at other towns, like Councilman Devine said, and how other towns work it, and if we can come up with something to help the homeowners, then we'll do that. Also, back what the mayor was talking about, that video on Channel 77. I just came across it, looking for a council meeting, and I came here, my family came here in 1956, so those old 50s movies was pretty interesting.
It was
you know?
very interesting.
When it was showing the pond hole, and the angle of the film showed the Lennox School before the gymnasium was there, as a kid going to kindergarten. I remember that. That was a little courtyard we used to play in all the time. So that was, I recommend residents to see if they can watch that on Channel 77. It was pretty interesting. And to see how vibrant the town was through those years, and all the stores that were there. Bill remembers. Frank remembers as a kid. Well, Frank remembers as a kid, too. I mean, we were back there then, you know. So it was a very interesting film. I showed it to my girl, and she was, oh, geez, I remember that store, and she got all excited.
And the other part is, too, they show the high school coming out of class, so there are already a lot of younger people, 17, 18, coming out of class, that might still be in town, and say, oh, that's me coming out of that class.
Saddle shoes,
Right?
Bobby socks. The outfits that they had back then, it was something.
No shorts.
No shorts. No, there was no shorts there, you know. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. Anything on the radio station come up?
Yeah, we're...
Any progress?
Still working on it, but getting closer.
Okay, good. That house on Perrin Avenue, people have been talking about it for a museum, is that,
There's a lot of talk about it. I mean, the house is for sale, but the problem with the house is it needs to be pretty much gutted, and the sale of the house is a good price, but there's a cost involved in cleaning it and putting it back to where it is. Yes, we've spoken at a historical meeting about maybe making it a museum or shared museum, maybe with the county in some way. It's just talk right now, but I think it's a good spot for a museum.
Yeah, it would be excellent. In the paper on February 3rd, there was a little article in the legal section about the February 27th meeting, whereas you're going to discuss the Willow ball fields improvement for there was an announcement in the paper?
Yeah, that was the first
That's
meeting.
what was rescheduled because of a notification issue. That's
Right.
going to be in March.
Oh, it's going to be in March, it's not going to be for the public,
March 13th.
March 13th, okay.
Then that's the same discussion, I know you're at the open space meeting, it's the same
Yes.
discussions that's gone on at the open space.
And that was advertised as well, the second meeting.
Okay, so, it was advertised as well, March 13th? Okay, good. Because I wouldn't be able to make the February 27th meeting, so I'll be down in Florida.
Could always come back.
Going to see some Yankee games, so that would be pretty interesting. And I think that's it. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilor Bennett?
Second.
Councilor Giacometto, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Privilege of the floor, I actually have something I mentioned before. You know, we're moving along with redevelopment, as you can see, Salvation Army's down. They were in today to talk about when they're gonna start building. So with that, we start addressing parking. So I'd like some volunteers who would like to be part of the parking, I'm not gonna call it authority, parking discussion that I think Councilman Riker was on, Councilwoman Riker was on years ago. We had that same one. So, I'm trying to put it back together again. So if I have anybody interested?
I volunteer that.
All right, so 1, 2, I'm gonna put Eric on 3, because I don't have 3.
You don't really want to quorum.
What's 3? I won't be there.
3 is a quorum.
3 is one?
Yes.
Okay, and we can only have 2, so I'll go with you 2 right now. Okay. And then what there'll be is people from the bid on that. I should address the fact that we've talked, we're getting closer to redoing the pond hole drainage system underground. The bid has been kind enough to offer us some assistance in paying for that, so we hope to have that started in the next year, hopefully.
Oh, well, actually, I gave Ferraro to go ahead and start working on design.
Okay.
Because we have money from last year's capital budget, and then the bid, so we should be in good shape. So we're moving on that.
So I do get a lot of calls about, and the DPW has gone down and filled in all the potholes in the pond hole. They won't last long because of the weather. We have to address that whole pond hole. It's sinking and shifting and moving, and the drainage is very bad. So we're gonna dig that whole thing up, refix all the drainage underneath it, put it all back together again, and that's when we'll start talking about the parking authorities again. Okay? Any other privilege on the floor?
I have a real quick one. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, just wishing everybody a happy Valentine's Day, and lots of chocolate and sweets in there.
Anyone else?
I'm just gonna throw something out there. It was brought up, I think, several months ago, and, I think it was sort of, well, let's see what 2019 brings. And I voiced, support is probably not the right word for it, but certainly interest, and still my belief that, at some point, the state is going to pass legalization of marijuana, and at some point, this community is going to have to address what we want to do. And at the time, I said that, we should provide some kind of community forum, town hall forum, for our residents to really understand what the issues are from a public health standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from a community safety standpoint, and it's still my belief that at some point, that we should still take this issue head on, and at least to have that conversation in a public forum, well beyond the point where we're passing an ordinance or not, regarding what we want to do in this community, so.
I agree with educating the public on all aspects of what it'll be. I think the problem is going to be, we don't know what the state's going to do yet, so it's hard for us to talk about where we fall into the whole thing until the state makes a decision. I have asked the rest of the council how they feel about it, but my opinion is we wait and see where we're going first, but that's up to you guys.
You'll have 180 days after the legislation is passed to make a decision on what direction you want to go in.
Okay, I mean, I think, if the state passes that legislation, we've got that window to determine. I think that's maybe the right time period to have that conversation, once we actually know what the law is.
I think it's gonna be 100, I mean, that's not fixed in stone yet, the 180 days,
No, well,
but nothing is fixed in stone on the
Nothing's
statute
fixed in
yet.
stone, but that's
But I
pretty much
think-
the direction.
Yes, I think there'll be a period of time, and it'll be fairly significant after the adoption of whatever they're going to adopt, that municipalities will be able to either opt in or opt out of certain provisions in the statute.
So that'd be a good time to have an open forum of discussion. I have no problem. I don't know, if anybody else has anything you want to say? Okay?
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, no problem.
Okay. That's it. Any better for the floor? Nope. Okay, motion to adjourn. Second, Councilman Bennett, Councilman Giacometto. Good night, everybody, thank you for coming.
You're the chair of the ordinance committee, and you're the mayor, so let me ask you a question. Dan O'Rourke, sent, I don't know if you have, I don't know if you have.